Welcome to The Firehouse, the show dedicated to the brave men and women who serve our community.
Welcome to The Firehouse on WRHU 88.7 FM. I am your host, Chris Moses, and today, sitting with me in The Firehouse is my boy, Kenny Gass. What's going on, man?
Good afternoon, or good morning, I should say.
Good morning. How you doing, man? So listen, I know a lot about you. I read your bio. We got a lot to talk about, right? We got a lot to talk about.
A couple things have gone on.
A couple of things have gone on. But I want you to introduce yourself if you can. Introduce yourself, your name, the company that you're in, the department that you're in, and how long you've been in.
All right, my name's Ken Gass. I've been in the Westbury Fire Department, hose company number 1 for 27 years. I got sworn in 1997.
Okay, wait. Let's just hold right there real quick.
Go ahead.
Make sure we pick back up. But before we started recording for my audience, I asked him, was it Kenny or Ken? But he just said his name was Ken.
I guess I was being formal. Generally speaking, Ken's my father, and I'm Kenny because I'm a junior. So we're both in the same department. To differentiate the two, Ken would be my father and Kenny would be me.
You. Okay,
correct.
But sometimes you'll say Ken.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll go back and forth the whole show. But go ahead, finish 1997.
So I got in 97, sworn in with a high school friend of mine, Craig Stewart, who's now the captain hook and ladder over in Westbury.
Okay.
We got in the same day, and the reason we kind of got sworn in when we did was Westbury was celebrating its 100th anniversary.
Okay.
So we got sworn in 1997. Westbury was started in 1897, and we wanted to be a part of that. So we got out of high school in June, put our paperwork in as soon as we can, and they got us in for August so we could participate actually in the state parade, which was hosted by Westbury for the 100th anniversary.
Wow, look at that. And you got in.
Yeah, we got
in because you know sometimes how long that takes to get in sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it was really cool. It was about 1,000 degrees the day of the parade. I'd never walked in a parade in my life. I mean, coming out of high school, what do I know about a parade?
Did you even have a Class A yet? You didn't even have a Class A?
I'm going to say I had a Class A, but I'm going to say it probably wasn't mine. It probably wasn't mine. Yeah, I would think.
So what makes you decide, you know what, I want to be a firefighter? Let's start from the beginning.
So what basically happened was my father and my grandfather were both members of the Westbury Fire Department.
Okay.
My grandfather got in, I want to say, he was born in 18. So I'm going to say he got in around 1936, 1940, somewhere in that area.
Okay, charter member kind of.
Yeah. My company was incorporated in 18. So, somewhere thereafter, he got in the 30s. My father got in, I believe, in 72.
Okay.
I was born in 79. And, from being a kid, going to the Firehouse Christmas parties, going to the Firehouse with my dad, riding down in the, in his car, and then him going on, my dad was a chauffeur down there for years. So he would leave me at the Firehouse. I'd get, my 50 cents to put in the machine to get myself a bag of chips or a Snickers bar or something. And, just hanging around the Firehouse, meeting people.
So Firehouse brat. Firehouse brat.
Yeah, I was a Firehouse brat to an extent. I was also a drill team brat to an extent. Dad would take me to tournaments. The Gass family vacation every year is wherever the state tournament was, and that's where I grew up. That's where we're going. So I've seen all of New York State. Some parts nice, some parts But so I kind of grew up around it, and then when I had my opportunity in 1997, I knew I definitely wanted to be a part of it.
So 1997, you joined. Is there any juniors involved there, or you go right in?
No,
at
actually,
18?
at that time in Westbury, we didn't have a junior program. Junior program was incorporated, I'm going to say maybe once I was 3 or 4 years in. I actually helped get it going initially. We did the Boy Scout thing where they were explorers in the beginning, I guess.
Okay, yep.
And some guys got that going, and then we were able to get some juniors going. Now our junior program it's really good. It's been really good for the department. We've picked up, matter of fact, the most recent member of my company is a junior, and we just got him. So it's been effective, and it's been a good way to get people involved and recruit and retain.
People in. So
the 2 words we use, right?
Yeah. So for you, it almost was like it was your calling, right? You got dad, you got you got dad, you got your grandfather, you got everyone. Now, did you serve? I know you're still in now, but did your father serve with you at any time? Did y'all get any calls together? And I know I gotta say this. I know you got some stories, and we're gonna get to those stories.
A couple.
You got a couple stories. We're gonna get to them, but let's get to that part. Like, what did you serve together at any time?
So yeah, my dad and I actually, I remember one fire at Jamaica Ash years ago. Matter of fact, I believe it was one of our members' weddings that was going on that day, and we went. I wouldn't say we were second due engine. It was a smaller version of the larger garbage fire we had later.
Okay.
And I remember, I was riding the officer's seat that day. I wasn't an officer, and hooking up the rig with him. And actually, I think we were feeding the sprinkler system in the, for the building. And I kind of it sticks in my mind because that was one time where me and him, directly worked together. I'm sure along the way he pumped a few more fires that we were at together. But that's one memory that I specifically retain to this day. I could show you the hydrant. I could show you where we connected to the building. It's just ingrained in my brain.
So what is that feeling like to look over and then see Dad? I mean, we need Dad here to ask that question of what he sees, but what do you see when you look and see that?
I mean, when I look across, I say to myself, that's the old man, and I think the biggest smile on my face is that, in some way, I mean, we're doing something together, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of kids and parents, life is so busy today. You get so few chances to spend time and do things together. And, being in the fire service, responding to calls together. My father drove me to my first fire call. It was a Caldor right here on Stewart Avenue. When there was a Caldor, people are out there, what's Caldor?
Like, what's Caldor?
Yeah, it was an automatic alarm at Caldor. I got sworn in on I think it was a Sunday morning back then. And it took till like 6 o'clock at night for our first call to come in. We went to the firehouse together. He drove me to my first call.
I know that. Look at that. I know how that made him feel. Like, wow, look at this.
Oh man, I wouldn't say that he was turning out for automatic alarms like that unless, there was some type of importance at that point. Because he was already in probably 25, 30 years when I got in.
He came just for you. Like, I got to take him in.
And he was excited. He probably more excited than I was, looking
You're
back
nervous,
on it.
looking around like, all right, what's next?
Just trying to put my gear on.
He's smiling like, look at this.
I do remember he bumped the guy out of the chauffeur seat. He was like, out.
Yeah. Not happening. Not happening. I'm taking this one in. All right. So what we can get into is some stories.
Okay.
Kenny, I know you got some good stories. There's some things we're going to talk about, but let's just start with some of these stories, like at least one story.
Okay. Let's start with the Harvest Diner.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
We'll talk about the Harvest, then we'll backtrack because I actually have to go. Then we'll backtrack.
Okay, then we'll backtrack. Okay.
The Harvest Diner, right? So the Harvest Diner is on Old Country Road in Westbury. It's now a flat concrete pad. That was a diner that the fire department used for many events. So if we did our September 11th ceremony, breakfast was at the Harvest.
Okay.
Hose 2, another company in Westbury, a lot of their members would go to this diner.
Okay.
So we pull up, I guess I was in the chief's office at the time. We get the call for smoke from the building. I come over Grand Boulevard, which is a bridge over the top of the train tracks in Westbury, looking down towards Old Country Road. I guess it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I could see the plume of smoke. So my assistant chief, who's now chief of department, gets on the scene. And he says, "Gives the working fire." And I pulled up and I said, oh, boy. Funny thing about that fire or that diner is across the street is where my mother grew up. So my mother and my grandmother and my grandfather used to, they knew the owner. I knew the owner.
Wow. Yeah. So that
it
hurts. That's a lot.
It was a lot. And I mean, funniest thing I remember saying to the line officer that was there, when I pulled up, I took a look. It was a well-advanced fire. And I said, you guys got 5 minutes. I looked at my watch and I said, if it don't get better in 5 minutes, game over.
That's it.
We're going to go exterior. And I think it got to about the 2-minute and 35-second mark when my spidey senses were going off, and I was like, we got to get out of here. And we backed out, and it became a multiple alarm fire. And unfortunately, we lost one of our great eating establishments that had been there for a long time.
And it, it has that kind of feeling that's the heart. While you're watching this happen, your heart is like, wow.
The worst part about it, or I guess maybe the weirdest part, depending on how you want to say it, is yes, the owner came down, and I knew him by face and just by handshake, not personally, but he was Greek. And he brought his Greek priest down. So here I am running a fire in a parking lot with a Greek priest in full Greek priest garb standing 25 yards away from me. And I'm going, oh, Lord, what is this?
What is going on here?
Sad fact of the matter is the gas station across the street, the gas attendant said at 1 a.m. he noticed some smoke from the building, but just assumed it was like from the ventilation system or whatever. He didn't call till almost 5 a.m.
Wow. So he saw it going. But, I mean, not their fault. He's not trained. He doesn't know. He doesn't know. So it's not his fault.
Yeah, he doesn't know.
But so you were chief during that?
Yes.
During that. So second assistant, first assistant, chief of the department?
I think I was chief of department, which kind of goes back to where we should have started.
That's why I'm leading up to this, because now we got to talk about you decided to go in, which was, all right, this was my father's in, my grandfather's in. You could just stay there. You decide to now be chief. and let's even skip that. You got to go through office first. So what makes you say, I want to do leadership within the fire services?
So
For over 50 years, Fire News has been the preferred publication for fire, rescue, and EMS heroes. Fire News print edition reaches Long Island, 17 states, and the District of Columbia. Visit firenews.com to see the latest news, read their digital prints, or follow them on Facebook and Instagram pages. In print, online, on social media, Fire News has you covered. Visit firenews.com. And if you go ahead and go visit on Instagram, please leave a comment and tell them that WRHU 88.7 The Firehouse sent you.
So my dad had always said to me that he was never a line officer. He ran for lieutenant once and he lost back in the 80s probably somewhere.
Okay.
And he actually lost to two friends. It was a three-way race.
Wow.
And he said he was a boss at his job. So he said, this is my place to be one of the guys. So you listen to your dad. And I was like, oh, you know what? I'll probably never have rank here. I probably, I started out as an instructor. I said, after 5-6 years, we're getting some younger members in. I got on the board of instructors for my company, which serves both the company and the department. And then it was like, oh, the next lieutenant spot's up, and you're slated for it. I want to say in the beginning, it found me more than I found it.
Wow. And it's funny because that's what most people say.
And I got to be honest, once I got in as a second lieutenant and you're involved in the goings on in the firehouse and now you're there a lot more, you're seeing things on a different level. The officers meetings that you heard about, you're now a part of
it. You're making,
I always had no problem talking to the chief or whatever, but now you're talking to the chief on a different level and you're learning things and you're seeing things and you're watching and emulating. And I mean, I could run down a list of Westbury guys that, have had great careers, both in the city, both out here, both at the Fire Academy, guys that I highly respected. And now, you had the opportunity to listen to them and take some of their mantras and push them forward.
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't need to, it's not a business where necessarily you need to be out there inventing things. I try to take the best from things that you hear and put them together. And that's kind of what I started to do. So I did my 3 years as second lieutenant. Well, then it was time to be first lieutenant and then, on to captain. And from there,
so let's just do that.
Go ahead.
First lieutenant, then now you're captain. Then you say, again, you can stop there, right?
Yes.
I'm captain, I'm ex-captain, I'm good. What makes you say, all right, let's make the next push to chief?
I think when I got in a captain spot, and the worst thing about my situation as captain, there's 3 companies in Westbury, as I said. Hose 1, Hook and Ladder, and Hose 2.
Okay.
So I'm the captain of Hose 1 at the time. PJ Weber was the captain of Hook and Ladder, a friend of mine. He's now in the chief's office in Westbury. He's first assistant chief.
Shout out, PJ. What's up?
Yeah. Hello, P. And captain of Hose 2 was Todd Weiss.
Okay.
Also a kid, I shouldn't say a kid, a friend of mine. He got in a little before me. Myself, PJ, and Todd all got into the New York City Fire Department around the same time. Todd got in for us. Me and PJ went through the academy together.
Okay.
And, it was kind of like, well, what's going to happen here? And it just kind of fell out that we had a couple discussions, and we used to have a gentleman's agreement where kind of there was one chief from each company.
Okay.
And it was, was Hose 1's spot. And, I got their blessing more or less, and I ran for the spot. Actually, I ran unopposed. Both my friends did not run against me.
Look at that.
Yeah.
I love that. I love to hear that. So you're now chief, right? I need you to kind of walk me through, because you're chief. Did you take the exam for FDNY already? When you were ex-captain? All right, so are you in FDNY right now?
So no.
Okay.
I got in the city on 9/14 of 03.
Okay.
Me and PJ Weber went into the academy together. We carpooled every day, did the whole thing.
Where are you here in Westbury right now?
I want to say I was lieutenant at the time.
Lieutenant, okay.
And the funniest thing, I'll throw another name out there. Me and PJ are coming in one day, walking into the academy, and anybody that knows the City Fire Academy, as a probie, you're not allowed to walk on the sidewalk. So we're walking on the blacktop. So we're walking on the blacktop, and in comes John Olson, who's an ex-chief from Westbury, and at the time, he was a lieutenant in Rescue 3. He'd either just retired, was about to retire, but he was still doing some work at the Rock, doing some rescue school stuff. So we see John walking in front of us, and me and PJ kind of like hurry up to say good morning to him. So we say good morning to him, and John doesn't say a word. Doesn't say a word, like acts like we're not even there. So I'm like, what's the deal with this? So we go about our day, but it just happened to be that was a Monday, which was also my company meeting night.
Okay.
So now I come to the meeting that night, and I see John. So I said,
You're like, what?
so I'm like,
Dude,
Chief.
you didn't hear us?
Yeah, I go, Chief, what's up with that? He's like, I don't talk to probies. I said, well, you're talking to me now. He says, well, here you're my lieutenant. In the city, you're a probie, and I don't
That's
speak to
right.
probies.
And I don't speak to him.
All right, John.
That is hilarious. He didn't have
Yeah.
a full answer, and that's it.
Yep,
You're
that was
going to
his
accept
answer.
it and keep it going.
Well, what option did I have?
Yeah, at that moment.
You know?
All right, so you're in, you're lieutenant, you're probie in FDNY.
Mhm.
How long were you in FDNY?
Just over 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
And then you made the switch over to PD.
Yeah, which we call it the reverse switch, right?
Yeah. That's the question, right?
So the answer is quite simple. My dad had worked in Old Westbury at Old Westbury Gardens.
Okay.
And I'd grown up there. Childcare was a little different when we were growing up, right? When I got out of school, a lot of times my mom, my dad would take me up there and I would hang out there to the end of the day when they went
Yeah.
home. So I was around the Old Westbury Police for a good portion of my life. And I knew
Okay.
them. Matter of fact, for anybody that knows the Old Westbury Police, they used to wear gray uniforms and they had cowboy hats. I actually
Wow.
had a cowboy hat from Bill Trottier, who's a 50-year member of Roslyn Highlands.
Okay.
He was friends with my dad. He gave me a cowboy hat. And I remember saying to my dad when I was like 10 years, 12 years old, like, how do I get to be an Old Westbury cop? And he was like, son, you'll never be lucky enough to be an Old Westbury cop. Fine. Going into the fire service, now you have different dealings with them. You start meeting the different officers at different calls because Westbury
Yeah.
protects Old Westbury. And my dad, I can't say enough about the guy. By the way, today is his birthday.
Happy birthday, Dad. Happy birthday, Ken.
So we're looking and I'm going to calls. I'm seeing the same guys. And it's like, I don't never really wanted to be a cop. I took the NYPD test. I'm sure many people did.
You take tests because
Right.
that's what you're supposed to do. Take all the tests.
Where I was going with this was I wasn't going to take the Nassau County PD test because I knew I was going to the New York City Fire Department.
Okay.
However, my father signed me up.
He signed you up.
Yeah,
without
he
you even
basically
knowing.
said, you're
you're going to do it.
You're going to take the
it.
test.
Okay.
And I remember the day. It was cold. I think it was a snowstorm coming.
And this
the
is
next
for
day.
Old Westbury.
This is for, because they hire off the county PD list.
Okay. Okay.
So he's, I get the thing in the mail for the test, and I'm in the city. I'm happy. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
24 years old. I'm a fireman in Brooklyn.
You can't beat
Like,
this.
what-
What do you mean?
What else
This
could
is
be?
the dream.
What else could be any better than this? Like, why am I even doing this?
Yeah.
So I go in, and I take it, and I specifically remember running through the test as fast as I could because I really didn't
you're
care.
like,
I
just
was-
get this over with.
I was
Dad
kinda like,
wanted me to do this. Let me
yeah,
get it done.
Right. Like the old man wants me to do this. I'll take the test. I'm never going to get hired anyway.
Yeah. But
It'll be what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Then the results come out and I'm 151 on the test.
You're
Out of
like,
the 18,000 people.
now it's real.
Yeah. Now you got a decision to make, Ken.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I went on some interviews. I talked to Nassau County. I really wasn't interested in becoming a county police officer. Nothing against the county police. Just I kind of was really happy being a city
Yeah.
fireman.
You were good where you were.
Yeah, I was good where I was. And then I got a call from the chief of Old Westbury. And he was like, we have your name. They requested a list because they were hiring.
Uh-huh.
And he says to me, your name's on the list. Are you going to come in for an interview? I said, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't go in for an interview?
Still not sure. Just
Still not
like,
sure,
all right,
but
I'll come in. Okay.
So I come in, I interview. They basically say, solid chance, we're going to look to hire you.
Wow. So
now I'm like,
now it's
we're,
real.
now we're at a dilemma a little bit. So I'm still going through it and the processing and that, and I'm keeping my mouth shut at the firehouse because I haven't made a decision.
Yeah.
I really
Okay.
haven't. And it actually seemed like it was going to go the other way because I guess through the budget or whatever, they didn't know if they were going to have the spot.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'm like, oh, you know what? Wasn't meant
That's
to
fine,
be.
Yeah.
Wipe my hands of it.
Yeah.
I'll go the other way. The chief of Old Westbury put me in contact with the chief of Old Brookville.
Okay.
He then says, yeah, no, I'll take him. Now I have this whole dilemma again. Now do I want to go to Old
Do I
Brookville?
want to go?
So I remember, unfortunately, Black Friday, right? Black Sunday, excuse me, withdrawn.
Uh-huh.
Black Sunday in the city, they had the 3 firefighter or the Bronx issue, and then
Yep.
the firefighter in Brooklyn that
Mhm.
got killed. And I remember standing at one of the funerals there, and my phone ringing in my pocket, like it's blowing up, and I couldn't get to it because we were standing in line.
Yeah.
And it was the chief of Old Westbury. He had gotten a position approved that day. I didn't answer his call And he actually he got in contact with me when I got home that night and said,
Wow.
"Hey, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning, you want
Be
the
there.
job?
You want it?
Be there."
Let's do it.
So, it came down to talking to my family. Obviously, there was a good.
What is that conversation like? I know everyone's looking like, well, Dad already had what he want, but other family.
So,
do you have a girlfriend at the time?
I
Do you
did.
have that?
I did.
So you gotta kind of like, hey, listen. I know they're all like, you're 25 and you're a firefighter in the city, Brooklyn.
Right.
What are you about to do here?
So that was a good question.
Jobtown Graphics is your go-to for custom prints, t-shirts, patches, stickers, and more, turning your creative ideas into reality. Owned and operated by a firefighter, they bring dedication and precision to every project. Whatever you can imagine, they can produce. Visit them at Jobtown Graphics on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Drop a comment if you go on Instagram and tell them that WRHU 88.7 The Firehouse sent you.
Before being a New York City fireman, I worked for the water district
Okay.
in Roslyn. I liked it. I loved it. Matter of fact, it just was a cool job.
Yeah,
I liked it. And I didn't know about going into the city fire department. Because I didn't know anything about it. I went onto the city fire department other than knowing it existed, knowing some guys that worked there. I didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
So what my father did is he set me up with a conversation with John Olson, who we spoke about earlier,
Yep.
and his brother Billy, who was the captain of 150, another ex-chief out of Westbury. And I sat at their
Okay.
kitchen table, and they basically discussed the job with me and said, "You have to take this opportunity. You got to give it a shot.
can't-
If you hate it and you want to leave, you'll always be able to do what you were doing. Go give it a shot." And I did, and I loved it. Would you believe when the old Westbury thing came up, my father took me to the same two guys, and they said, "You got to take this job." They sat me down again, and they were like, "You got to give it a shot. If you hate the police academy and you hate the police department."
Then, yeah.
What I also had was, it's funny where people fall out. I only had a couple of years in the city, so they won't grant you a leave of absence.
Yeah. You're
So-
new. You're
right.
brand new.
Right. You're like, you're a bop. You're barely off probation.
Yeah.
I was there, like I said, I was there a little over a year off probation at this point. And the Division 15, there was a chief there that was very good friends with my godfather, unbeknownst to me. So his name was Chief Quinn, I believe. I'm going back a little ways here. So I'm in the firehouse one day, and I'm coming towards the end. Like now it's like I'm getting hired in August, and now we're in July, and things are, the old proverbial, what's getting real. It's coming to that point, and I definitely have apprehensions, and I have a lot of thoughts going through my head. And the division pulls into quarters at 309 and 159 where I was working at the time. And they ding the bells, and division's in quarters. I come down, and they get over the microphone, and they said, "Firefighter Gas, come see the division chief." And I'm like, what could this be about? I haven't even put in my letter that says I'm leaving at. There's
So
no
what
way.
is this
There's
that
no
they
way
already
that,
know?
Right. There's no way that some division chief should want to talk to me.
Yeah.
And he said, "You've never met me." I said, "Actually, I have, Chief." I said, "I've seen you around, but no, we've never been formally introduced. Look, I'm very good friends with your godfather, and I will tell you that if you do not like the police academy,
You're good.
you're good." He basically told me you got 18 months to come back, and he
Okay.
said, "I'll get you back to where you are or where you want to be.
Okay.
So go give it a shot." Senior guy in my firehouse told me the same thing. He said, "You got to go give it a shot. It's close to the home. There's definitely an increase in pay." The day I went in the academy, I got a $7,000 raise over what I was my second year in the city.
Okay, so it ended up being like almost a no-brainer at
yeah,
that moment.
it was. And,
Yeah.
there were greener pastures going forward and all. So, I gave it a shot, and, I'll have 20 years in Old Westbury
Been
this
there
year.
ever since. Been
Yeah.
there ever since. Look at that. I love to hear that. Been there ever since. And looking at it now was a great move.
It was a really good move.
It was a really good move.
It
And
led
it
to
kind of brings back that full circle kind of thing, That full circle thing where,
I think I also fit a need. The guy I replaced, Bill Trottier, who I brought up from Roslyn earlier, whose hat I had when I was a kid.
Yep.
I was his replacement upon retirement. So Old Westbury being a small village, there's only 30 of us right now, police from the chief down. Kind of needed a liaison to the volunteer fire department,
There
and
you
it
go.
always had a liaison in Billy.
And
So
then-
Billy knew guys in Westbury, Billy knew guys in Roslyn, and when the police department had an issue or needed something from the volunteer fire service, Billy was that guy.
That guy.
And I think I kind of fit a little bit of a round peg, round hole kind of situation where, hey,
This guy has this. He has this.
Right.
Boom. Let's do it. Let's
Correct.
move him in. So look at that. Look at that. So now the next question I guess I have is, where does FSA come in, right? Because now we've left FDNY.
Right.
We're settled here, Old Westbury, you're still in, Westbury Fire Department doing there. How does FSA come in? All right. So just tell them what you do at FSA, just so everyone can know.
I'm a second Deputy Chief Instructor at FSA.
Okay.
There's about 70 of us out there, give or take, from a myriad of departments within Nassau County. I've been teaching probies out there, teaching department ops. I do some maritime fire training with Chief Aid, who we had on, and Chief Henry, who we had on.
Yep.
So what happened was I wanted to get out to FSA because there was a bunch of guys in Westbury that were FSA instructors. Chief Olson, John, again, same guy.
Okay.
He's a chief out there.
Okay.
Him and Don Haight, I believe, got out there the same time. I think it was
Okay.
81 they've been out there since.
Wow.
I think that's the
Wow.
date on that. Chief Stewart, who's in my company, has been a family friend for years.
Okay.
I grew up with his son, Craig, who I got sworn in with. He was out there. Chief Price, another guy. All those guys at the time were in my company. So I kind of always saw that as like, the next level.
Mm-hmm.
And in 2018, when I got out there, at that point, I was my first year as chief. So, I knew the sun was going to set on my chief career, and I knew I had probably time to take something else on.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, I was, moving towards 20 in my police career. So it was like, I think I have something to offer. I think I have something to offer to the fire service.
Yep.
I believe in the volunteer fire service.
Uh-huh.
It's a part-time gig that I could continue on if I did retire at 20 years.
Yep.
And have that going forward.
And have that keep going.
And I kind of felt like the fire service had given so much to me in Nassau County. It's responsible for a majority of who I am today. It helped me get my job in Old Westbury. It got me the job in the water district back in the day, and on the advice of guys from the Firehouse is when I ended up in the city fire department. It had done so much for me. I wanted to see if I could do something for it, and I kind of thought maybe this was it. So, and I got out there. I got out there. Just looking at, the first night that I walked in, I remembered I was with Chief Wiley that night doing a private dwelling. That was my first night as an instructor on staff. And I mean, listening to these guys talk, I mean, these guys have forgotten more about firefighting than I will ever know.
You never know.
Than I will ever know. And I just look around. I mean, what a bunch of all-stars. I mean, the staff out there is
amazing.
Amazing.
Second to none.
Second to none. I mean, the experience level, the trainings that these guys have attended, the expertise that they have.
They know.
There isn't one guy out there that's not on solid ground.
Yeah.
And getting out there and then being a part of that and listening to these guys and having the ability to work with them. Initially, you train with them, and then you work the way up to cutting your own teeth to where you have your own stuff that you're doing out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's just been But
it starts as you wanting to give, and then you end up getting from being there.
Being
you
out
get
there
so much.
I will tell you, and I mean, obviously, Westbury is a decently busy department. We go to a good amount of fires. We go to a bunch of mutual aid fires. A couple of years in the city. Not that that's that's a long time ago, but some of the best experience in making me a better fireman is some of the stuff you get to see out there.
There you go.
I had a chief tell me out there. He's now deceased, Chief Garrity. He said to me when I first got there, he said, "You'll never get more mask view or mask time than working at the Fire Academy."
Wow.
And I thought about that, and I was like, oh, this is Chief Garrity. He's a SOC chief. Guy's been on the job for, at the time, maybe 25 years. Chris, if that's wrong, I apologize. I'm just guessing on the date, on the years. He said that, and I was like, wow, you know what? He's right. Like, every time I come here, I get to put on an SCBA. I'm in a smoke environment. I'm in a heat environment. Now, granted, it's a training fire. I get that, and everybody else gets that too.
It's real.
But it's it's still an opportunity to put your mask on it and use your skills when you're there, as far as staying orientated and watching what guys do and picking up on what's good in an operation and what's bad in an operation. And when I say bad, then what we could correct,
what you could
right?
correct,
and it's been a really good experience, and I just kind of felt like it was the cherry on top of on top of the cake at the end of after coming out of the chief's office and being able to do
have
something.
all of that. So I want to ask you about FSA. Just being an instructor there, I know you've seen the good, the bad, the ugly. You've seen it all.
Yeah.
Like, as an instructor there, you're seeing. Let's say this is the bad that you're seeing that you have to correct. Like, how does that work? Like, when it and I've of course been there, so I know we do our critique there at the end. We sit on there, but you standing up there now, doing that critique, you seeing things that are like worrying you. Like, I know you're not doing this at home, but you probably are. Like, how does that, you know?
So I think like one of the things that, I mean, my group of instructors that I got on with, shout out to Ralph Longo.
Okay.
He's a good friend of mine. We got on together, and Luca Pozzi and Danny Butner. The four of us kind of formed like a little, we talked a lot, because we didn't know a whole lot about it going out there. And I think the one conversation that the four of us had, and I'm not lessening the other four individuals that got hired with us. It's just the four of us clicked. And we didn't know each other really prior. It just kind of clicked when we got out there and started talking. Was the fact that when we were going through the fire service, and we all had similar time. Louis had a couple more years. Danny's a couple years less than us.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Ralph have about the same time. Was that it seemed when we were out there that we were always wrong. Like going back years ago.
Yeah.
Like this is a bunch of, it was like grumpy old men. I hate to say that, and I'm probably going to get torched for saying it, but that was kind of like,
what did I do right? Did I do anything right?
Yeah, what we remembered from back in the day.
Yeah.
And, we kind of said like, I don't want to be that guy. Like, I don't want to be the guy who stands in front of X department and is like, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong, you did this wrong. I'm not saying that we're not going to talk about it, but I'm saying there's ways to talk about things.
That's right.
There's a way to tell you you've done something wrong, and there's a way to tell you that you've done something wrong. And it's two different ways you can do that.
That's right.
And I'm not saying you got to sugarcoat it, because nobody likes, the sugarcoating.
Especially in the fire service. Oh, yeah.
Right. You hit the points. You hit
Tell
a professional. You don't deal in personalities. You don't deal with specific personnel. You don't call people out. If the can man did something completely wrong, I'm not asking him to raise his hand so I can demean him.
Yeah.
That's not how you do it. That's not
it's
business.
What happened?
You talk,
where was going on? Where were you? Where was this? Yeah.
Right.
It's more, I feel, at least when I was there, it's more of asking for me to figure out what I did wrong more. So it's like, what happened? Well, what'd you do there? Well, what should have you, what should you have done? That's what I feel. And I think that's what you're
the old what
to.
went well, what went okay, and what went bad kind of. And, that's, again, it's an overhead conversation, so to speak. And I'm not saying that every once in a while you don't get on somebody. I mean, we've all had the opportunity where we've had to. Like, what you did could get you really hurt.
Yeah.
Like, you sometimes, and a lot of times
you got to let someone know that.
And a lot of times those conversations are had, one-on-one or one-on-two. If it's two guys that did something dopey, you catch them coming out of the building and just pull them to the side and you say, dude, what were you thinking? Like, you'll get away with that at the fire academy because there's no fire extension. This building's concrete. It's not going to flash over. All that good stuff. It's contained.
At home, that may not happen.
At home, that might not happen. And, if you do that, you're really putting yourself in peril. So maybe, you should think about whether you'd want to do that again.
Do that or not. Yeah.
And I think that's, again, one of my favorite things and to do out there is Proby School. The reason I like Proby School is that's the future, man. That is the future.
Yeah.
And, interacting with these kids in Firefighter 1, number one, it's a I guess you could say in certain aspects it's a barrel of laughs, but it's a lot of fun. Because at 45 years of age, you don't really get to interact with 18-year-olds.
Yeah, you don't.
And I ask these guys questions like, they're so technologically advanced compared to what I was.
They are buffs to the buff to the buff.
Yeah.
So it's actually good. It's like, wow, okay.
My favorite thing to do, actually, honestly, is to just stand there, like during an evolution, while we're running an evolution. If you see, like one person is doing something, you keep an eye on that one person, but you're listening to their conversation, and you're like, oh my God, to be 18 again. Oh, this is what they're worried about. This is what they're worried about. Are you kidding me?
All right. But now I got to ask you, because we got to get into some more stories here. So let's stick with the FSA. So for our listeners, I was supposed to get Ken on this show. What was that? March, I think.
Yeah,
right?
we spoke in March, and I think we were setting up like late April.
Yeah,
early
like
May.
late April. But then something happened, and you weren't able to show. If we can talk about what happened of why you weren't able to come to the show.
Yeah. So on May 9th, I was out there at an FSA, doing a marine firefighting course that we run quite often. So I'm sure many of our listeners have seen it out at the Fire Academy. The ship that is there is used usually, generally speaking, by SUNY Maritime and Kings Point Merchant Marine Academy.
Okay.
So to get their degrees, they have to have what's called basic shipboard firefighting and advanced shipboard firefighting.
Okay.
So Kings Point probably came on maybe 4 or 5 years ago, give or take. They entered a contract to do the training there. Where they used to do their training down in Jersey, it closed.
Okay.
So they needed something.
Something.
And this
Yeah.
Chief Wilders got together with them, and they got it
Shout out
going
to
and
Chief
did what they had to
Wilders.
do. Yeah, he's probably listening.
Yeah.
So fine, I forget if it was it was a basic class. So it was myself, a couple of the chiefs working. There was total of 4 of us, and I was off for the evolution, give or take. The other instructor was basically, he was running the evolution, and we were doing what's called a fire in a birthing compartment, and the fire went out, and I went to basically try to restoke the fire for the chief that was inside.
Mm-hmm.
Bottom line, what happened is flash fire from some diesel fuel ensued. I had a bucket of fuel in my hand, which I then dropped and splashed on myself when I dropped it. And unfortunately, I went on fire.
Wow. So you got to walk us through this. What's going through your mind when you first see it? So you know it's about to happen. Boom, flash. Like what's going through your head there?
I think disbelief would be probably the best
Until you
answer.
felt it.
Yeah, no, then it was, obviously excruciating pain.
Yeah. But first
It was weird. I could still picture it. Like I looked down at myself and I was like, oh God, like there was an oh God moment there. I was smart enough, thank God, or instinctual is probably the word. They had stretched a line into the ship to extinguish the fire that had went out. And I ran right to the doorway there. And I feel
so now you have flames.
Oh yeah, I'm on fire.
So you're fully like,
yeah.
So how, you got to explain, right? So we're talking, it splashed on you. So turnout coat.
Both legs.
The entire front of your body is flaming.
Yes, correct. That is a fair statement.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that is
so
a
go
fair
ahead, keep
statement.
going. So
I run
line
to the
is
door,
at the door.
And I'm screaming, obviously, because it hurts.
Yeah.
Put me out, put me out, put me out, put me out. And like I said, I feel terrible for this kid because here he is, a freshman at Kings Point, and he basically directed the 1 3/4 line onto me and extinguished me.
Wow.
So after that happens, I look down at my hands.
I can imagine what's going through his brain at this moment.
I think they had to do like a whole stress debrief. I mean,
it was.
I feel
like,
terrible
what?
for this kid.
To see,
it's brutal.
Your instructor come at you in flame, put me out, Wow.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't good. Let's say that. I remember looking at my hands, and my hands all had 2nd-degree burns and some 3rd-degree burns on them as well. And I just remember looking at it, and like that moment, it hit me like, "What are you gonna do?" Like, "Oh Jesus, what?
Yeah.
What now?" So, what happened was.
So just back up really quick.
Yeah.
He finally put you out.
Right.
Do you hit the floor now and you're just laying there? Do you
No.
walk out like?
I'm standing there basically probably in some type of shock.
Okay, you're still in shock.
Yeah.
Like what's going on? People start now running over like, hey.
So I'll shout them out. Tim Wadika and Tim Maloney, 2 of the chiefs that work out at the Fire Academy, great guys. 2 guys that through my entire recovery were by my side and checking in. Chief Maloney must have came to see me in the city 10 times and the calls and texts and it was phenomenal. Both of them came over and they kind of grabbed me up and took me over to the bleachers in that area.
Yep.
Obviously called an ambulance, called Chief Wilders, called EMS.
Yep. Call everybody.
Plainview came, and they started looking at me, and I remember them just pouring water on my hands. I remember them looking at my pants and my legs and being like, "Oh, that's not good."
Wow.
So I got in the ambulance. At that point, now you're cold, right? Because they took all my clothes
and
off, and I'm soaking wet.
When so that's the other thing. You're wet too, right? Because you just hit you. Now, looking down, turnout. Is thing melted into your skin at this moment, or did that not happen? Were you not long enough, or
it kind of burned? So the clothes that we wear at FSA are cotton.
Okay.
So they burned. They didn't melt into my.
Okay, so
skin.
it just burned up.
It just
and then,
it just kind of.
Okay, so now you see your leg now.
Yeah, I can see the tops of my legs because where I got burned, I burned from basically my knee up towards my thigh.
Okay.
To me, it's just red. It's red. It's got blisters. It's definitely got blisters, but I'm not thinking much about it. Like I'm more entrenched in the fact of my hands that I can't stop looking at.
Okay.
And all right, so I'm kind of like, geez, and they're talking. Obviously you need the burn center. I said, yeah, obviously. So they took me over in Plainview's ambulance to NUMC.
Okay.
I was met by a full trauma team at the door.
What is the pain like at this moment?
So they gave me
now
some
in there. Did they at least give you something like?
They gave me some. I'm not even sure what a painkiller they gave me at the time.
Did it work?
Nah, the stuff in the ambulance, it was enough to kind of just
take
the.
edge
off a little
Okay,
bit.
yeah.
But when I got once I got into the ER, it was like they gave me some real good stuff.
Yeah.
Then I was,
I'm
there's
good
definitely
now.
some hours missing from the day there. So what happened was, they cleaned me up in the ER. They got me up to the burn floor. They started looking at my wounds. They cleaned me up.
Mhm.
And then it got to be whether I was going to stay in NUMC or I was going to go to Cornell in the city.
Yeah, because
So, obviously being at FSA, and there's a tremendous city presence out there. And my buddy Ralph, who's, I spoke about earlier, he's on the board of the Burn Center.
Okay.
And he was pushing hard for me to go to Cornell.
Okay.
Yeah, go to the city.
okay,
And basically what happened is they came in and they asked me my opinion. And my opinion, again, was made for me by my father, who said, you're going to go to Cornell.
that's where you're going.
And that's what's going to happen. And they came in and they said, are you going to go to Cornell? And I said, yeah, I'm going to go to Cornell. And they took me into Cornell that afternoon, 5 o'clock. So we left
Okay.
NUMC about 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I want to say it was a Thursday that I got burned on, it's either a Wednesday or Thursday.
Okay.
We went from NUMC to Cornell, and we were there in less than 40 minutes with a full police escort for my job.
Wow, look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. Look at that. I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I
Yeah.
love that, man.
So that started day one. So I get to Cornell, I guess, 6 o'clock at night now.
Yep.
So they bring me up to the burn floor. Doctor comes over, who ends up being my burn doctor,
Okay.
Dr. Chang. It's the greatest in the world.
Okay.
They meet me. Okay. They put me in a room. They say, you got a half an hour. So you got a half an hour with you, your father, and your girlfriend. Get yourself square. And then this room is going to be flooded with people. So you
Okay.
got 30 minutes to chill.
So,
So, okay. The only thing that was weird at the time is the way NUMC had wrapped me. I couldn't see they had wrapped my hands up, kind of like balled my fists up, if you will.
okay.
Obviously with dressings and that to treat
Uh-huh.
my burns. I couldn't remember for the life of me what my fingers looked like at that point because of the medication they had given me.
So
So now I'm sitting there and I'm starting to get a little tight because I'm like, man, do I still have fingers?
like what's going
what's
on?
going on?
And y'all are not talking to me. I need to see. I need to
Right.
know.
And the first, God is my witness, first thing they did when they came in the room was cut the bandages off, and I saw my hands, and the doctor looked at him, and he wasn't appalled. He was like, oh, okay, all right.
All right.
And I was like, well, if okay and all right's all right, then maybe this isn't so bad. They cleaned me up that night, and, what does everybody ask? Everybody asks the same thing with burns. What's the percentage? What's the degree?
Uh-huh.
What's the percentage? What's the degree? Dr. Chang told me to my face, he's like, now I guess it's Friday. He's like, I won't tell you any of that until Sunday. He says, burns
Wow.
need time to settle, and we'll evaluate
And we'll
you
know.
Sunday or Monday, and
Okay.
we'll know where we're going from there,
Mhm.
Excuse me. So get to Sunday or Monday. Now we're talking some care. They debrided me, which is cleaning, obviously, of the wounds. This is going on
That's
twice
rough.
a day.
That's rough.
People ask me, how do you describe it? So I say, all right, get a cut on your hand, right? So
Mhm.
get a cut on your hand, like a knife cut. You were cutting up onions and you sliced
Mhm.
your hand. I said, now, twice a day for the next 24 days, because that's how long I was in Cornell, stick a fork in it. Because that's basically what we're
That's
doing,
what
right?
That's what it does. So
Right.
you're heavy on payment. So I guess I have a little bit of idea. I was in a motorcycle accident, have severe road rash.
Okay.
But when they debrided the road rash, they put me to sleep.
Yeah, no.
You're not going to do that if you got to do this for 24 days. So it's different. So,
They-
but I can imagine. Wow.
They had a room called the Tank, which I was first like, what is the Tank?
What is the tank?
It sounds like a cool place. I guess we can go, We got in there, and it was basically like when I first walked in, I was like, oh, my God, because, being a cop and a fireman, I'd been to the morgue before.
Yeah.
I saw the steel gurney there, and I
I'm like,
immediately
wait.
flashed back to like, oh, my God, it looks like the morgue. But it was, it's a steel table, because they're flowing water on it, and they couldn't do that on a regular bed.
Of course.
So that's just how it was.
So that's
But, and then they would come in and they would scrub and clean and, you'd ask for more Demerol and,
Yeah.
they would do what
do
try to keep you as comfortable as you could.
as much as they can, but they still got to.
I feel like I wanted to get it done. Like they did it twice a day. The second time was at night. They would come in, they would change all my bandages again, clean everything up. Everyone thinks what's it? Silverdime cream is what everybody thinks burns are treated with. I got to be honest with you. It's not. It's basically bacitracin, which is
Okay.
to me, Vaseline on
Vaseline,
steroids.
yeah.
Right. So that's really what they were using as a topical treatment.
Okay.
And then, the burn dressings that they used that would anti-stick so it doesn't rip the scab every time.
Yep.
But, and then it kind of just started to heal a little bit. And I thought things were going well. Doctor was happy. And he's like, so I guess this would be coming into week 2. He says to me, we're going to put you in for surgery next Friday, and we're going to clean your wounds up. We're going to put in some aloe packs, and we're going to put some fish on you. I said, say what? He's like, yes, cutting-edge burn treatment. I believe it's North Atlantic cod is the type of fish. Yeah.
Oh, so it was like real fish.
Oh, yeah, this is like
I
real
thought
fish.
you was like saying a name for something.
No,
so
no,
like
no,
real
no.
fish.
Yeah, real fish.
Okay.
And I kind of asked why. Like, what does that
so
do?
they just like raw fish? They just cut it and...
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So what basically they found out in burn treatment is that your skin beds will eat the fish. So
it's growing. So you're feeding it.
You're feeding your skin.
Wow, look at that. Everybody, listeners, look that up because that's interesting.
So they did put me on a feeding tube a couple days in because they said with your body trying to heal as much as it is, you can never get enough protein.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, I'll eat.
But it's just not enough.
Nope. They put it in. I tolerated it. Was it fun?
Fine.
No. But it was what it was, right?
Yeah.
And they went in the first week and they did that surgery. They put the fish on. They wrapped me up. And I went back to the room. Basically, I really couldn't move till the following Wednesday.
Okay.
And then, Dr. Chang said to me, your final skin graft surgery. Well, actually, it kind of went like this. We got to Monday so now I got surgery Friday. So Saturday, Sunday, the following Monday, he comes in to see. And the guy was I don't stop. This guy never stops. He lives on Roosevelt Island right across the street from the hospital. He was there every day. He was there at Memorial Day, for God's sakes. I was like, do you ever take a day off? So he says to me, basically, can you chill out? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm laying in bed watching Judge Judy here. How much chill can I get?
What more can I do?
What more can I do? He says, look, I'd like to do something aggressive with your surgery. I said, okay, what do you got? He's like, if you let us do it, what we're going to do is we're going to put a epidural in your back, and we're going to numb your legs from basically your waist down.
Okay.
And then we're going to put a block in your shoulder so your left arm will be numb. I said, okay. He's like, the only deal is this is for 5 days. So you're not going to be able to move your legs or your arm for 5 days.
Wow.
So I said, what's the benefit, right? Why? He's like, because we want to take the skin from the back of your legs for the skin graft. So people that don't know, when you get a skin graft, it has to come from you.
Mm-hmm.
If it comes from anyone else, your body will reject it.
Okay.
So he's like, we're going to use the backs of your thighs. I said, okay. He said, well, if we sedate you from the waist down, basically 5 to 7 days, that heals up. He says, you won't feel the pain. He's like, you're not going to have pain where we do the graft. You're going to have pain from the harvest sites. So,
and that's on the back of your leg. So where you're going to lay, you got the front.
Yep. So it's like weird, right? And I said to him, is it going to get me out of here quicker? And that's exactly what I said. And he's like, yes, because otherwise we would have to do 2 surgeries on you. I said, all right, so let's go for it. I'm game. I'm in the hospital. Let's do it.
Let's get it.
So the following Friday before Memorial Day weekend, Friday before Memorial Day weekend, they went in, they did my whole surgery. I went in at 7 a.m. I think I got back to the room at like 5 o'clock at night. The only thing I will throw in there was 2 ketamine baths. That's an interesting thing.
Wow.
Yeah.
So explain really quick.
So ketamine bath, when they take the bandages off, they use ketamine to put you into another planet or galaxy. And that's how they could remove the dressings, because it would be so painful to remove the dressings.
Literally.
You wake up and you're like, what happened? Yeah, correct. Absolutely.
So now, I don't know if this is compared to, like I told you, I had a motorcycle accident, so I know what road rash. And the road rash hurt everything, but it was the grow back stage, that itchy stage. I'm imagining you would get that same thing.
I got to tell you, not so much.
Not so much.
No,
okay.
I don't really remember much itching, to be quite honest with you.
Okay.
And I think the reason is because of the grafts.
It's a little bit different.
They're kind of healing in.
Yeah.
I will say they did give me Benadryl and stuff for itching. I did have some anti-itch medication in there.
Okay.
But I don't remember the itchy being that terrible. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Listen, man, that is one hell of a story, and we are all glad that you are here and you're fine and ready to start again.
Yeah, I mean, I went back to work September 1st.
Okay, went right back and
I got back to the academy around about November, December. Okay. Doing some stuff out there again. The hardest thing, like coming out of the hospital, was you want to get your life back. You want to get back to, you want some semblance of normalcy. And I didn't have that in the summer because I still was, wearing a compression. You wear compression for a year after burn injuries. So there's a lot to it. But by September, October, I was feeling pretty good. And as I sit here today, I mean, I'm pretty much back to life 100%.
I got to ask you a question. What is the normal time for an injury like yours? Because it sounds like you got back way faster than anyone I've ever heard of.
So they initially thought, Dr. Chang told me, he figured I'd be in the burn center 40 days, the day I walked in. Now, this is the fun stuff they don't tell you until they're letting you out. And I got out in 24.
Look at that.
So fast forward to July, I go, because every month now you have to see the burn doctors once a month.
Yep.
And he's like, so what do you want to do? And do you want to go back to work? I'm like, well, I'm still having some of this and some of this. And he's like, how about we aim at September 1st? He's like, I think we can, if you take care of yourself and do what I tell you. And it's probably the only person I've ever listened to 100% in my entire life was Dr. Chang. But September 1st, he was like, as far as I'm concerned, you're healed.
You're ready to go.
You're healed.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Look at that. I love to hear that.
Yeah.
All right. So listen, we got a couple more questions, but before we get into the questions, I'm pretty sure you saw the show. We got to play the flashover. We got to play the flashover.
Okay.
All right. So basically for the flashover, what I'm going to do is ask you two questions, right? I'll ask you Android or Apple. You got to tell me which one, and you got to do it quick. But before we start, Chief, what is a flashover?
Flashover is a simultaneous ignition of all contents in a confined space at one time.
Yep, and it's boom, just like that. And that is the premise of this game. I'm going to ask you. You got to give me the answer really quick.
Okay.
All right?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. Chief, are you ready for the flashover?
I am. Let's go.
Let's get this going. Chicago Fire, rescue me.
I'm sorry. Chicago Fire.
Rescue me, third watch.
Rescue me.
Backdraft, ladder 49.
Backdraft.
Backdraft. We're going to talk about why you went really fast with that one. And the most important question I'm going to ask you today, Chief, which I think I kind of know the answer, but I'm not sure. Engine or truck?
Engine.
Engine. There we go. Boo, boo, boo. Put the red stuff on put the wet stuff on the red stuff. You said it quick too.
Absolutely.
That's it. Engine. That's right. Hose one, baby.
Right. Absolutely.
There we go. You said backdraft really fast. Why backdraft over ladder 49? I always ask this question.
Grew up with the movie. Obviously, it's nowhere near realistic, which is fine, right?
It's a movie.
It's got a great theme. It's kind of was like. There was when it came out, if you remember, like it was a big deal. Like this was the first movie that was really portraying firefighters.
Yep.
And I couldn't wait to watch it. But of course, I guess it came out like 94. So I might have been a couple years young. And my dad kind of like had to convince my mom that the cursing and a little bit of sexual etiquette.
Dad is definitely like,
right.
He's got to see this.
He's got to see it.
He's got to see this.
Yeah. So, it was just, that's why. Just because I grew up with it. And I still, if it's on, I hate to say it, I leave
You're
it
going to
on.
watch it. Yeah, it's going to be on. It's one of those things that it's a yearly watch.
I agree.
You're going to get that and watch it at least once a year.
Yeah, it's like that, Goodfellas,
there
Casino.
You got to watch
can't
those.
turn them off.
Yeah, you just got to have them on. All right, so quick question. One common myth you want to debunk about firefighting right now?
One common myth. Okay. One common myth I would say is people that live in brand new houses can also have fires in their houses.
So explain what you mean.
So when you talk to people, and I talk to my residents at work, or we talk to people around Westbury, everyone thinks that their brand new house, there's no way that could ever go on fire. It's brand new. They don't think about the construction of the house. They don't think about lightweight construction. They don't think about open floor plans and stuff like that. They all think that, somebody's house that's going to go on fire is the person who doesn't take care of their property, 60-year-old house with bad wiring. No, it's not true. Funny story, we watched on the corner of Stewart Avenue in Uniondale, that whole complex that wasn't even finished, burned down in a very short amount of time.
Right.
The Omni, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that was one of the fires I had when I was, one of the fires that I was at when I was chief. Me and Chief Clark from Hempstead, I believe, rolled into that one together.
Wow.
Because it came in as a Westbury fire. Yeah. Because it's right on.
It's right there, right on the borderline. Yeah.
I came out of my house and I could see it. I said, that's not good. But, common myth, yeah, absolutely. People think that, just because it's new, it's fireproof. And that's not true.
That's the furthest from the truth.
When we sit on and you think about it, your old school construction probably holds fire better than your new.
My house was built in 1940 or 1945. And when we're doing construction, the walls themselves, the plaster, the sheet, these things were held together, right? And it's not these open floor plans. So if something did break out in this room, it stays in that room for a good amount of time.
Well, that's like talking about legacy, the legacy fire versus the modern fire. And the fact of the matter that, grandma's couch that was plastic covered that we sat on at Easter and Christmas, that thing burned a lot slower because it was made of wood. It was made of fibers, opposed to my Bob's couch that would go up like, in 10 seconds and light the entire room off because it's basically made of diesel fuel. So,
all right. So new part of the show that we've been adding in, what I want you to do is tell me if you had to name one person that you think would be great on this show, shout them out right now. That hasn't been already because we've got a lot of people.
Have you had Ralph Longo?
No.
Ralph Longo.
Ralph Longo, you have been called down to the Firehouse. We got to reach you. We got to find you. I'll get his information and come on down here and talk. All right. I love to hear that. Ralph, I hope you heard that. All right. So last couple of questions here. In a whole, right? How has the volunteer services shaped your life?
Geez, going back to what we talked about earlier, I mean, it's been quite responsible for my career path. My friends, most of my friends for the most part are all Westbury firefighters or Carle Place firefighters. You talked about Willie Geddes before.
That's right. Yeah.
It's definitely affected my friend base. I mean, my kids have been raised down the Firehouse now. They go into the Christmas party.
That's
and
right. They're doing it all.
You get such a big friend base and a communal base. And even people in a community you see at the Memorial Day Parade or you see here or you see there, that's really, it's a large portion of what goes on in your life.
That goes on.
Yeah.
I love that. All right. And then the last question, if there's someone that's listening right now that is just got in or is thinking about getting in from this show, what type of advice would you want to give them?
Come in, join us, go through the training, keep your mouth shut and your eyes open.
There we go.
God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you're speaking.
Can you say that once more? Right to that. Say that once more.
God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. You should be listening twice as much as you're speaking.
There we go. We got a sound clip. Listen, Kenny, thank you so much for coming down. Is there anything I'm forgetting? Anything you want to shout out? Anything that I'm forgetting?
No, my pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, thank you so much. I can't wait to start editing this one because this is going to be a good one. But thank you. Definitely. Thank you for all that you do. We are all glad that you are happy and you're back and you are, in good health because I know everybody was worried about that at one moment.
I appreciate that.
So very happy that you're back. We just heard from my boy, Kenny Gass from the Westbury Fire Department about his life as a firefighter. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. Please like, share, subscribe, do all of those things. I am your host, Chris Moses, and please tune in next week for another great conversation in the Firehouse.